This is The Vibe, Broken Arrow, a podcast created right here at the City of Broken Arrow in City Hall. I am Aaron McCulloch, Director of Communications for the City of Broken Arrow, and this is our City Manager, Mr. Michael Spurgeon. Mr. Spurgeon, thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. Looking forward to today's discussion, Aaron.
I am too. I'm really excited about this. I think in part because our communications team, you delegated us the task of working with a third-party consultant to put together a community survey to put out into the public. And it was a task that we were happy to take and to run with it. Before I get into the results, because those were just recently presented to council, I want to get your take on why it was important to do this, why you tasked us with this job. Why is it important to the community to be able to have a say in the growth of the community?
Well, that's a great first question, Aaron. I'm glad you're leading off with this because it does really just works real well with what I believed in my philosophy of what the role of government is over 3 decades now. And one of the most important roles we have as municipal officials is transparency. I've just believed since I started in this business is that we have a responsibility to make sure the community knows what's going on at City Hall, I like to say, but really it's all around town. And so the most important way to do that is to over-communicate. And as we've transitioned through time with technology, we've gone from the traditional paper newsletters and the newspapers that you get or did get every single day with stories with reporters to what's happening, to public forums, which we still do. But as we've advanced with technology, it's very important that we stay up with that. And I've always been a firm believer that you need to gauge how you're doing by asking the public how you're doing. And so this just really is something that's always been one of my top priorities when it comes to communications. We did it in 2017 here in Broken Arrow. We had great feedback on how we're doing, just like we did this time. And the other thing is the other part of the survey really was to talk about what projects the voters would like to us consider as we begin to build the 2026 bond package. And so this is just very consistent what I've done over my career. The council was strongly behind this, and I wanted to make sure that as we start to build this bond package, we've got good feedback. But most importantly is that we have a great quality of life in Broken Arrow. That was evident from the results of the survey. How do we know that? The public said so. And so to me, this just reinforces what we're trying to do every day, and that is to try to get to yes in better service to the citizens and businesses of our community.
So speaking of the survey, pretty comprehensive. It is roughly about 17 to 20 minutes, depending upon how much time and thought you put into it. I think it took me probably around 20 minutes because I really wanted to be intentional in my thoughts with it. Let me just hit you right off the top. What were your takeaways? Was there a aha moment for you when you saw the results?
Where do I start? Well, I'll start where, and I say that jokingly, but in all seriously, it starts and where it ends is it was the highest rated service in our community, and that's public safety.
Yep.
I mean, I've said this no less than probably 500 times in the last 8.5 years, is that I believed over my career, and this is no different in Broken Arrow, is that the success of your community begins and ends with your commitment to public safety. Mm-hmm. That's your police, that's your fire, and that's your emergency management. Now, that is a significant investment when you talk about the infrastructure, when you talk about the cost for the personnel in order to maintain that high level of responsiveness. And Broken Arrow basically confirmed what the council and I have been saying my entire time here, is that public safety is very important. If you think about why it's so important, okay, especially in today with everything revolving around public safety, number one, if you don't have a safe community, it's going to affect the quality of your schools, the quality of your neighborhoods, the number of people that stay in your community, the number of people that you can recruit to your community, whether it's new businesses or new residents. I mean, it has a perception. If you're not a safe city, you see it all over the country. If it's not a safe city, it has just like the pebble in the pond and the rippling effect. And so our public has gone out and they're very, very happy with the commitment that we've made to public safety, and they want us to continue to make it a priority. So now that we know that, it's a responsibility of Chief Berryhill and his entire administration, as well as my office, to make sure that we continue to meet those expectations. So that was my number one takeaway. Secondly, and this was not a surprise, Broken Arrows like the direction we have with regard to economic development. They want to see, those that responded, want to see our community continue to grow. They want smart growth. They want to see additional housing opportunities. They want to see more opportunities to shop local. They want more things to do. That's why we focused really hard on trying to bring the outdoor amphitheater and our partnership with Notes Live. But the economic development was a high priority to us. The third thing I wanted to mention was recreation. I mean, obviously, we have folks from birth all the way up into our seniors, and they all want opportunities for recreation. And I think Matt Hendren has done some pretty cool things since he got here. And I believe in this next bond package, as we begin to build it and we begin to unveil phase one of our Elam Park, which will be this summer, we start to look at the next phases of that master plan, all the improvements we have for active recreation with our youth, with our adults, our passive recreation, trails. We need more trails. It was very clear trails was extremely important to us.
Have you seen behaviors change over your years when it comes to parks and recreation and people actually being more active and taking advantage of public spaces and public opportunities? Has there been a behavioral change over those years?
Well, I can tell you, all the communities that I've worked in 5 communities, 2 in New Jersey, 2 in Oklahoma, and 1 in Missouri. I've been blessed to say that we've had active communities in all of those. And it's very cyclic. I mean, obviously, youth sports is tremendously important in every community for those that want to play the traditional basketball, football, baseball, softball, volleyball. That's no different here in Broken.
I'm a soccer dad.
Soccer, exactly. Soccer's huge. My Kathleen and her kids were huge into soccer.
That's right.
So those traditional programs are big all over. What I've noticed about Broken Arrow specifically is that the needs and the desires for other types of activities, such as sand volleyball, has picked up. It scored very, very well, in my opinion, in the survey. Folks want more trails. They want more walking paths. They want more connectivity. And the city, honestly, over the years, because probably a matter of not having the resources, there's gaps in that walkability. And we've tried to close that gap. We put several $1 million in the 2018 bond package, and we've actually closed some of those disconnected areas. And my recommendation to the council is going to be for the next bond package, I'm quite sure there's going to be a very robust dollar amount included for the connectivity within the sidewalks around the city, because I'd like everybody to be able to get anywhere in town if they wanted to walk and to do it safely. So in other words, if you wanted to start at Kenosha or 71st and walk all the way down to 101st, you could do that on a sidewalk safely. If you wanted to go on a trail, we have trails in our parks. I mean, Ray Harrell is a great place a lot of people don't think about when they're talking about trails.
That's a hidden gem.
It absolutely is, and I encourage everyone to get out there and enjoy the nature there. But I will tell you, the one thing I've seen a lot more interest in just reflectiveness, is what I'll call it. The passive recreation, places where you can go and just sit and reflect and just enjoy nature. I can tell you the Broken Arrow, Keep Broken Arrow Beautiful, the KBAB group is working on an initiative that's going to go out in the early fall of this year, which is something that we put in the bond package. It's a project in Central Park that's going to provide more of that passive type recreation. So once again, when you've got folks from youth all the way to seniors, everyone wants to stay active, and their idea of active changes. What I like about Matt Hendren and his team is that he's not just focused on, even though his daughter's an amazing softball player, he's robust. He's always thinking about what programs do we need for all ages so everybody can get out and get about and enjoy the great outdoors, honestly. So those 3 things are probably my top takeaways. I got a few more, but I want to throw something back to you, because obviously you've delved into this study a great deal. So I'm going to switch roles today.
Oh, no.
And I really want to talk to you about, what was your top observation outside of public safety, economic development, and recreation?
Oh, man, you're putting me on the spot. So for me, it was the public safety aspect. But I think after that, then I have to go back to the local governance part of it. And I'm probably going to be, I'm probably going to stay right here in my little bubble. But it's going back to that transparency and the high remarks that we got on that. That's really important to me. as a former journalist with 20 years of experience working in TV news, that's one of those things that we prided ourselves on was credibility, getting the story correct, and getting the information out to the public. And from whenever you interviewed me almost 3 years ago now, that's incredibly important to me. And so to be able to see that the community responded and said that this team that we have here in communications, led by you, and with the department directors all throughout the city, the city councilors are also part of that public information services. They do a fantastic job engaging with the community and being open with them and making themselves available to them. We got an approval rating of right around 70% as far as the public information services that we provide. That's really good. I'll take that. And, just to do a little bit deeper dive into that, those ratings were based excellent, good, fair, and poor. And so you had 70% excellent and good. The negative was about 8%. And so to be able to say that only 8% don't believe you're doing a good job with the public information services, that was a proud moment. That was a proud moment. That let me know that what we're doing is right. It's being seen by folks, and that's really cool. It's really cool. So I love that.
I wasn't sure which one you were going to pick. I was hoping that you would pick on that one because I also wanted to dovetail on what you said, is that the survey reveals that there is a high degree of confidence and trust in the governance of this community, which they believe is having a positive impact on the quality of life that we have here in Broken Arrow, which tells you that there is, I believe, the support for the direction that we're trying to take the city, which is, top priorities are always maintaining a safe city, managing our infrastructure, and I think we learned, and I'll mention that in a minute, there's some opportunities with regard to our infrastructure, things to do, just maintain a great quality of life, partnerships with our school district, because obviously the quality of your schools has a tremendous impact on the quality of your life. And we couldn't be prouder than all of the schools, especially Broken Arrow Public Schools, led by Superintendent Chuck Perry and his team, for all that they do and the partnership we have. Now, I will tell you, the purpose of this was to find out how we're doing and also to talk about potential opportunities for the next bond package. And I wanted to know how we were doing. And if there's an area that we can get better, and I want to talk in just a minute after we talk about the results, is what's the next steps? Because it's great to have a survey. What are you going to do with it? And I just want everybody to be assured it's not going to sit on some shelf, because that's not the way we roll around here. We're just not going to do it that way.
Which I appreciate that. Let's talk about some of the areas of opportunity, specifically mobility and utilities, water utilities, drinking water, that sort of thing. Let's start with the mobility. One of the things that stood out was the ease of traffic flow. Positive percentage was around 40% on that. Was this a surprise to you?
No.
Not me either.
It was not. In fact, I anticipated that it would confirm what we hear on the street every single day, no pun intended. The fact that it takes longer today to get around Broken Arrow than it did 9 years ago. I mean, little people don't think about it is, if I'm going to go to lunch somewhere, when I was going to go over to Lynn Lane area and Kenosha, 6 years ago, I could probably get there in maybe 5 or 7 minutes. Now I always plan about 15 to 20 minutes just to get to wherever I need to be, because the sheer volume of number of people that are traveling around our community. That's why we focus so hard on trying to get on the ODOT's, Oklahoma Department of Transportation's 8-year plan, because we need to reconfigure that entire interchange at Highway 51 and Lynn Lane and that entire area. Unfortunately, we were blessed to be able to add to that plan, so it's really just a matter of time till we can basically have the funding, and we'll begin on that probably $40 to $60 million project. But no, I'm not surprised. But I also have to look at, when you measure government, your success, one way you can look at is where were we and where are we going? So let's talk about that. About in the last 10 years, we have actually widened almost 16 miles of road from either 2 to 3 or 2 to 5 lanes to accommodate. The latest success was Washington between Olive and Aspen, which is a bond project. We've Houston, which is just to the north, 81st Street. We've got 2 miles that have been approved by voters. And right now, one of the utility companies is finishing up their work, and we're going to go out to bid for the west mile probably this summer, and that'll take about a year, and then we'll follow up with the east mile on Houston. We've got other improvements that are coming. Right now, we've got a few projects that we're waiting to finish up. This summer, we should have County Line Road between 71st and 81st and the brand new bridge. That's going to be done. And so, I mean, in any fast-growing community, you're going to have to deal with two situations when it comes to roads. Number one, the maintenance of your existing roads. And you have to have a revenue source to be able to do that. And we're blessed to say voters back in 2015 repurposed a portion of the vision tax for street maintenance. And Rocky Hinkle, now Tim Wilson, are very, very good at basically coming up with a diligent, effective plan to do street maintenance. And we also included bond packages. We've included some money to add to that to do street maintenance for asphalt and for concrete where we have to do reconstruction. So we spend about $6 million a year on the maintenance of our existing streets, which is far more than most communities, I can assure you. So we've got a good plan for that. It's just a matter of priorities. And then secondly, which is also priorities, is the widenings of the road to accommodate the traffic that we receive both going north and south and east and west. And obviously east and west has a lot to do with where people are moving over to Tulsa during the day to get then coming home to be able to get to their jobs and then get home. And then you're looking at the north and south corridors. And so I would anticipate easily, even though we still have probably, I'd say approximately 6 miles left in this current bond package of 2018, in the 2026 package, you probably could see another 10 to 15 miles of additional road widenings. And we may be in a situation where we can look at into Wagner County and try to anticipate the growth that we're going to be experiencing and try to actually do some widenings in those areas. Because we hear it all the time, why did you let this development happen but you didn't do the road? Well, it's really a matter of dollars and cents respectively, because the bottom line is we're trying to take care as a fast-growing community, and you really can't tell somebody how to develop their property. And so we're trying to stay up with it. But I wasn't surprised, but I was excited because I know what we've done and I know what we're going to be doing, and I'm confident that if we put together a good plan for the citizens with regard to what roads we're going to widen, and we got to be strategic about it, and very, very, because the cost of roads is increased tremendously. Kenny Schwab was telling me, Assistant City Manager of Operations, he said the cost of a mile of road widening might be up 30 to 50% over what it was in 2018. And so it's going to cut down on the money we would have available. So I'm not surprised about it, but I'm excited about the opportunity. That's the first one. So what is your take on what the results said about roads?
About the same, because you make a really great point. It takes a while to get to some places in town, and that's just a fact. The thing that I love about it is, and it's something that you said all the time, is that the construction, it's that little bit of inconvenience. It's going to pay off. Just you got to give it about a year or so. And so using Washington between Olive and Aspen, that's typically my route to work. While that construction was going on, I just went up New Orleans and came over that way. And so it's inconvenient and it can be frustrating. And even for us, it can be that way because it just seems like these are long-term type projects, and they are, but there is a contract time, and a lot of the times those contractors, they finish up early. So I'm thankful that you brought up the Lynn Lane corridor between Kenosha and Hillside Drive there, because that's one that we do hear a lot about, and we've told folks, and not everybody catches our messaging whenever we put it out, but that is a project that we are partnered with the state on and the federal government on. And so when you have all these different jurisdictions coming in and you've got these different monies coming in, it takes a long time. And on a project like that, where you're talking about interchanges and that long stretch and having to do something with a bridge, that's going to take an awful long time. And so we're looking at a little while. But I think it's really important for folks to hear that before that orange comes up, that we are working on things behind the scenes, and it takes a while to get to the orange cones and construction. So I wasn't surprised by the mobility at all. I think I was probably, and I wasn't surprised. We took probably a little bit of a negative rating on public transportation, which that didn't surprise me very much at all, just for the simple fact we're a suburb. And but what I thought was fantastic about that is we just launched 17 days after this closed, after the survey closed, we launched Broken Arrow Transit, the microtransit pilot program. And so I think I love how proactive we are as a city. And we only got to that point to be able to launch that by engaging the citizens and doing a study 2 years prior, bringing them in for town halls, having them do a mapping project, having them do a survey. We only got to this point because we actually engaged with them. And it's the same thing with this survey. As we get into the future growth is going to be based on what the folks said here. So one of the things that they said in here, as far as an area of opportunity for us, is drinking water. This didn't come as a surprise to me. I think our water utilities department has done a really nice job over the past 2 years. I know my first year in 2021, we fielded a lot of questions and comments about water quality. In 2022 and in 2023, I know that they did something called feathering, which is a slowing down of the water that goes through the pipe so that it doesn't stir up the minerals and that sort of thing. Those calls really decreased a lot, and so I give them a lot of credit for it. So while 57% is still a good number, it's more than average. It's I think a little bit of that may be legacy thinking, and I think it's an opportunity for us to really reinforce to the community the improvements that we're making. And I think you and the Assistant City Manager, Kenny Schwab, have done a really nice job of promoting Tim Robbins, who's been with the city, into that utilities director's position. He and I have had conversations about we need to get more messaging out just about the utilities. And we just kicked off the first video with him about earlier in April. So I'll ask you, how surprised were you about the drinking water part? And do you see this as an opportunity for us to grow?
Well, overall, the feedback we got from the respondents was they were pleased with the utility department. And then they pointed out some areas that were opportunities. And I consider the drinking water results definitely an opportunity. I mean, quite frankly, we have an incredible water treatment plant. And that was the decision was made to go to that plant before I got here. And so I'm just going to not make any criticisms about that. We had a line that went to the Mid-American Industrial Park that maybe we should have reconsidered rebuilding, and there may be an opportunity in the future for us to reuse that. We get our water from the Verdigris and Oxbow there, and to me, I would like for us to focus on finding a better source of water, quite frankly. And I think if we had a better source of water, it would improve water quality immediately. And I'm pleased to say that our engineering department has been looking at some opportunities, and we've been discussing with an entity about the possibility of acquiring a tank and running a line that would provide us with a better water source, either we could use or we could mix, that would improve our water quality. So believe me, I drink our water every single day, and I would love nothing more than to not have any complaints about our water, and I take them very seriously, just as I know the council members do. If there's ways to add filtering that's affordable, it's something we would consider. A new water source, I think is going to go a long way. But one of the most important responsibilities that I have as city manager to the council is there's an old saying that's Socrates said many years ago, obviously, that politicians, municipal officials, I'll add, are supposed to be planting trees for which they will never enjoy the shade. Point being is that it is my responsibility, along with the staff, to look down the road 20, 30 years and make determinations on how our community is going to grow and making sure we're ready for that growth and that our infrastructure can accommodate it. And one of those, when we think of infrastructure, the first thing most people think of would be roads. Some people would think stormwater. Well, water and sewer are both very, very important utilities that we provide. And so our water system right now, while we can improve the quality of water, we're actually pretty good based on growth till probably 2037, 2040, which means we're actually going to have to start implementing a plan to expand probably around 2030 2032 sometime. We have a report that we've discussed with council. We'll be talking about that again within the next year. We've got some ideas, the UWA line, maybe going back to some type of source with Mid-American Water where we were getting water, basically renovating that line, maybe expanding that line up to the Grand River and getting authorization for some water rights to bring water. So that's something that's always on the top of my mind. The other thing that wasn't mentioned, but they go hand in glove, and that's sewer. I mean, our 2 sewer plants do a great job, but when in terms of growth, we were talking about this earlier with some of our developers, is there is going to be a need for probably some other type of treatment facility up to the northeast part of our community at some point. And when you talk about water treatment, sewer specifically, it's expensive. It is absolutely expensive to capital improvements. It is extremely expensive to operate, and it takes a long time to build. So you've got to be having these conversations a decade out. You need to be looking, okay, if we want to implement this plant, in 2040, conversations need to be started, and then actually implementing the basically design of plans, getting permitting. Nothing happens quickly, and it's for a reason, to make sure that everything done correctly, because the public is relying upon you to build something that is safe and works efficiently. And so I'm happy with the results. I will say is obviously, every year we have folks that express their concerns about utility bills, and there was some comments in regards to, the utility bills. And obviously no one wants their utility bills to go up, Aaron. That's just not something the council and I don't sit around and go, hey, we need to increase the utility rates. I mean, the staff looks at the cost of operations, which is based on personnel, operating expenses to run the utilities, and then our capital program, and we try to size the rates that we charge to essentially to accommodate what it takes to operate, and really nothing more. And so I think we run very lean with employees. Our capital program is an absolute must, and to continue to maintain our system and upgrade it to accommodate all of the growth that we're experiencing, as well as, more importantly, take care of those that are here. And so I understand those concerns, but I want to assure everybody is that we don't look to have a rate increase every year. We look at to see if we need one, and a lot of that's just based on the revenue we receive, operational costs, and trying to find the best model that's going to work. And we're in that process right now of looking at, for next year, determine what it would be, and certainly we'll let folks know that later this summer about that.
So we touched on it just a little bit ago. What's next? What are the action steps? How do we take this data and apply it to operations?
Well, I'm glad that we're going to wrap it up with that, because obviously, like I said, I don't want any results to be sitting on the shelf. That's actually pretty disrespectful to the people that took the time to complete the survey, as well as all the citizens that are relying upon us. Really 2 parts. I'll start first with how we're doing. There's some areas that obviously we did very, very well, and there's some areas we have some opportunities. I want us to take a look, the director specifically. Kenny Schwab will take care of the operations. Norm Stevens, this is the matter of administration, will look at his areas, and the 3 of us will get together. In areas where we did very, very well, I'm going to ask the directors to give me recommendations on how we can continue to do very, very well and even better. Okay, if we're excellent in some area, how are we going to maintain that excellence? Quite frankly, if we're doing well, how can we get to the next level in terms of service to the citizens? Give me some recommendations. If we have opportunities for improvements, let's identify what the public had to say, their concerns were. Let's drill down and look at the data associated with that question and determine what we need to do to get from we're doing okay, or we're not at something around, we're marginal. But there's a few of those, obviously, but get to the next level. Have a plan to get to where when next time we do this in a couple of years, that actually, because if we did it in a few months, you probably wouldn't see the results. And so what I'm going to do is we're going to work together as a leadership team with our staffs, and then we're going to come up with recommendations for each one of our areas in our departments, and then we're going to work off those. And many of those recommendations are going to become the goals and objectives for the directors in their various departments. And for myself, I'll present those to the council to let them know how we're going to improve upon their community and what their residents, obviously the council members are accountable to the people, so they want responsiveness. So that's one, and that's going to be an ongoing process. Probably take several years in order to identify goals and objectives and then implement those goals and objectives. On the other side, it's the bond package. And I know you and I have had many, many conversations. We got some great feedback in some areas, And I think there's some other areas that we need to do some additional surveys, what I would call maybe micro surveys, ask a couple of questions, actually throw out some more suggestions, because we got good feedback in those areas where we did ask suggestions, because we want to present the bond package in probably June of 2025 for the vote in April of 2026. I'll give council the full package. I'll make my recommendations on what I absolutely we believe need to be in there based on citizens' input. And then we will go out to the public, have our public meetings like we did in 2018. We'll have stations for every different proposition. Roads over here, parks over here, stormwater over here, public safety. Everybody can go to every single station. They can rate the projects we're considering, put the Post-it notes by it, priorities. I'll bring that package back to the council probably in October of 2025. Council will debate it. We'll get to the cut line, which is here's how much money we can spend that won't create any new taxes. And then we'll actually pass the ordinance and we'll go to the vote. But my number one goal is to make this a citizens-driven bond package initiative. And you only do that by involving the citizens. And so next week, you know this, I've got 30 meetings next week, the week of April 22nd. So some people may listen to this or see this, 2-3 months from now. I'm meeting with every single user group, sports, individual organizations that use our buildings, all the directors, the council. We're going to have an amazing week next week of talking about nothing but the future of Broken Arrow. And I can't wait, my man.
No, it's going to be fantastic. Let's go back to that micro survey just real quick, because this is the next opportunity for the citizens to be engaged with what we're doing. And you said micro. So to me, what that says, where this was a very comprehensive survey, we're not going to be asking for a commitment of 17 minutes. This is going to be a commitment of probably 5 minutes, I would imagine, where we're going to hit on just one subject. And, I think you and I've had some conversations, and we haven't drilled down exactly what that first survey is going to be. But I'm going to throw it out there and say my guess is probably going to be mobility and perhaps some roadway improvements and that sort of thing. Is that kind of what you're thinking?
Well, first off, it's going to be whatever link you make it.
There it is.
So, in all seriousness, yes. I mean, I really think that anybody, the 3,900 people that took the 17 to 20 minutes minimum to answer those questions, I applaud every person that did, because it was lengthy, and the results are evident that the city's doing a lot of really, really good things. We got some areas we can get better on. Okay, I see some short surveys on some specific areas talking about projects. We may put out there, hey, here are the 10 roads we're thinking about including in the bond package. Have people give us some kind of feedback on those 10 roads. We might even say, hey, listen, give us 5 roads. Let them write in a few roads that they would think that need to be done in addition or an alternative. So I could see that. I could see more questions about the community center, which actually rated very high. We're not sure if it's going to have an aquatic element to it, but I do think that a community center is something we need in the southwest part of our city. We may ask some questions about the community center. We may ask some more questions about other recreation opportunities. We may ask questions about public safety, but I could see a series of short surveys, not out there for very long, but long enough to get good feedback that we can actually look at, and we can say, okay, we got some additional data. Because once again, it's all about making sure we have all of the projects. I know we're going to have more projects than we're going to have funding available. And last time in 2018, we had about $310 or $11 million. The cut line was 210. And so we had to leave $100 million worth of projects back on the drawing board. So I anticipate it'll be something similar this time, if not more. So we got to be very deliberate and very, very thoughtful about how we're going to present to the voters the funding projects that they want to see, that we're going to get their support on, because the goal is this. It's real simple. Broken Arrow is one of the best places to live in Oklahoma. The quality of life is as good as, if not better, than any community around, respectfully. We've got some great cities in the Tulsa metropolitan area, and they're all doing great work. Broken Arrow's right there with them, trying to basically lead the way in terms of quality of life and safety. We want to maintain that, and the only way you do it is getting the support of the citizens.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Appreciate the conversation.
All right. Thank you very much. Look
Talk
forward
to you
the
soon.
next time.
The Vibe Broken Arrow is produced by the City of Broken Arrow. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to subscribe to hear more about Broken Arrow, the city where opportunity lives.